As most of you know, I run this channel with as little commentary and filler content as possible. I like to get straight to the point to not waste your time. This review format is something new that I'm trying out as opposed to only doing item location guides and playthroughs. I understand that some of you may not like this and will choose to unsubscribe, which I totally understand. For those that stick around, I greatly appreciate the support. A quick TLDR for anyone that doesn't want to stick around for the whole video. If you like open world games and they're your primary genre that you play, then you should just buy Crimson Desert. There's some rough spots for sure, but this is a must play for any open world fan. For me personally, it's a 10 out of 10 game. Now onto the full review. Crimson Desert is a game that throws a massive amount of content and mechanics at you with little to no explanation on how it all exactly works. Even though since the game launched, developers have released multiple patches and quality of life updates, there's still quite a bit of friction when it comes to the onboarding process of this game. With that said, I still think that Crimson Desert is a masterpiece that any fan of open world games should play with no questions asked, because in my opinion, all of the pros vastly outweigh the cons. It's also important to keep in mind that I'm reviewing this game as a regular person. I work 40 hours a week, I have my daughter to take care of, a house to care for, so on and so forth. I think that it's an important detail to make note of when talking about a game as massive as this. At the time of making this video, I have roughly 100 hours of playtime in Crimson Desert. I haven't beaten the story, and some might say that I can't review the game unless I've beaten it. But let's be real here. With a game like this, the real story isn't the one the developers wrote, it's the story you write yourself by adventuring in a massive, dense open world and exploring all the possibilities. Just know that this review might seem somewhat disjointed and scattered since as a regular Joe Schmo, I have very limited time to play the game, capture the footage, script this review, and edit the video. Before I get into everything that Crimson Desert does right, I want to address a lot of the complaints floating around online as well as some of my own. By far, the three biggest criticisms I've seen online surrounding the game include the story and the characters being trash, the controls being needlessly confusing and obtuse, and the claim that the world suffers from being 1,000 miles wide but only an inch deep. I'll say that right off the bat that there's some truth to those first two claims, but the last one is simply so far from reality that I'm wondering if the people that said that even played the same game as me. I do agree that the story and characters for the most part are uninteresting and bland. The main character that you play as, Cliff, may as well have been a silent protagonist. The voice actor does a fine job when Cliff speaks, but you just simply don't care about what he has to say. It truly is mind-boggling that Pearl Abyss chose to have a bland protagonist instead of just letting us create our own character, considering that for a long time, they had one of the best character creation systems in the industry with their previous game, Black Desert. The other two characters that you play as aren't much better in terms of interesting dialogue or story development, but luckily that's offset with their unique combat and gameplay compared to Cliff. As for the controls being confusing and overbearing, well, yeah, there is some truth to this, but in reality it's not as bad as some people are making it out to be. There is a bit of a learning curve and some weird input delay for certain actions, but I can't really see any of these things being a massive game-breaking issue for anyone that's played video games for most of their life. The devs have adjusted the input delay issue and the game does control better than when it launched, but there is definitely still a bit of wonkiness to it. This doesn't apply to combat, however, but I'll touch on that in a bit. Now for the journalists and reviewers out there claiming that this game world is shallow or empty with no content, I mean, I really don't know what to say here. It feels like trying to argue with a wall. The open world is so unbelievably detailed and massive that it borders on giving you overbearing choice paralysis every time you take 5 steps in any direction. No matter where you look, there is something to explore or something to do. Even just looking at the game can feel overwhelming simply because of the sheer density and detail on display. So no, the world isn't bland or empty, it's just very much alive and filled to the brim with things to discover and do. The vast majority of my time playing this game has been spent just exploring the map, and I've had such an awesome time doing that. I've done quite a few story missions and some side quests, but the main draw here for me is undoubtedly just the exploration. I don't say this lightly, but Crimson Desert is one of the very few games that remind me of Elden Ring, which is my favorite game of all time, next to Ocarina of Time, of course. Elden Ring had the same vibe of being so mysterious and so massive that all I wanted to do was see what I could discover on my own. I'm 100 hours into Crimson Desert, and every time I play, I'm still discovering new regions on the map, new weapons, new armor, new characters, new abilities. It feels like the content just never ends, and I love that. Inevitably, while you're exploring, you end up having to fight some enemies and some bosses that are actually pretty tough. Luckily, the combat in this game is smooth and can be really flashy if you put in the work to really build out your character and learn all the combos, especially once you start experimenting with Abyss Cores to add new abilities and effects to your weapons and armor. Overall, the combat is great and really has that locked-in flow state feeling once you get used to it. The only thing that I seemed to have an issue with was the parrying and blocking being inconsistent, especially with bosses. I'm pretty sure this is an issue that Pearl Abyss have noticed and said that they are looking into adjusting though. Real quick on the topic of combat, I do want to say that bosses for the most part are no joke. They will mess you up very quickly if you are unprepared. I'd say some of these bosses are definitely Elden Ring level style of encounters with extremely difficult attack patterns that can be so fast and unrelenting that one missed parry or dodge will end up getting you killed. One thing I haven't seen a lot of people talk about is the music of Crimson Desert. I'll only touch on this quickly since it's pretty straightforward. I'll just say that the soundtrack for this game is phenomenal. Everything sounds like it fits the theme in the world perfectly. I mean, even the track that plays when you load into the game is epic and gets you hyped to go out and explore. Once you complete a bit of the story missions, you eventually unlock the ability to build and customize your own home base, which I honestly didn't expect to enjoy very much. I thought that I would for sure find it tedious to manage and deal with, but I actually ended up really liking it. Being able to manage supplies, send out allies on missions for rewards and resources was actually a nice break after I'd spend a few hours running around the map, exploring and fighting enemies. I'm pretty sure that everyone knows this by now, but you can have pets in the game, and you can customize them with different little outfits and armor sets. I mean, what else is there to say about this? It's awesome, and while your pets don't do much besides pick up loot for you, it still makes the world feel that much more alive and interactive. My favorite by far is this little cat I recruited at the start of the game and that has joined me on all my adventures. I mean, just check out that drip. I could go on, and honestly, I want to talk about this game more because I really do think it's that good. But this video will end up being 3 hours long, and I just don't have that kind of time to invest in YouTube at the moment. So I'm just going to leave you with these final thoughts. Crimson Desert, for me personally, is a 10 out of 10 game. That doesn't mean it's perfect, it just means that everything that's good about the game is so overwhelmingly awesome that it vastly outweighs anything negative I've experienced. I've never seen or played an open world game like this before. The vastness, the density, the graphical fidelity, all combined are truly something to behold. Add in all these complex systems and interactions that are at your disposal within this open world and you have something truly special. Hopefully this wasn't too bad for my first review. I do plan on trying my hand at reviewing other games in the future, so this video will kind of be like my jumping off point where I learn a lot to carry forward with new content. Until then, let me know what you think in the comments and maybe hit that like button if you feel like I've earned it. Later.